about it a little bit today.
Okay, great.
Hello, Pete. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Hello to you. Hope you're keeping well and everybody else around you.
Well, not everybody around. The place is almost lit up in fire here. People are dying all around.
Yeah, we're hearing lots on the news here. Kind of, it's a really concerning time.
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Yeah. Well, please you try and keep as safe as you can.
Yes, that is the top priority. Everything, therefore, is closed.
Yeah, we're very much thinking about you.
Today we have some students of the professors from different universities. So, but they'll not be a big crowd, just a few. Hello, Manpreet. Are you one of the students? Welcome, Dr. Bajpayee Singh.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. A very warm good evening, sir.
Lata Bajpayee Singh is a professor at the Bhim Rao Ambedkar University.
How's your health?
We are very fine, thank you. I hope you are fine.
Yeah,
with your
perfectly all right, and started working again.
Very nice, very nice.
Yes,
very
yes,
nice.
yes.
Raj Amonkar is from Goa. He is running an institution of a similar kind where it's called the Wisdom Lab. And we often speak to each other about how to take forward this agenda. Hello, Ilirida. Very nice to see you.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. So everybody's just coming in dribs and drabs, but that's only just past now, so we'll give people a few more minutes.
Yes. Ilirida, how's the COVID scene in Norway?
Hi, Varunji.
Hello.
I think it's going better now. I think they stopped the vaccine for a bit, but now it's getting back. So more people are getting access to the vaccine.
Good, good. And this is the British vaccine or the American vaccine?
The AstraZeneca, is that the British or
yes,
or the American?
Yes.
I don't. Yeah.
Where is this? Which country is this?
In Norway.
Norway. Norway, they have both Pfizer and AstraZeneca.
Yeah.
Pfizer now they're rolling out for everybody above 60 is being rolled out. And there was a recent article saying that, incidence among immigrant population is more. So they're also focusing on certain areas of Oslo, getting vaccinated earlier than other places. So yeah, that's what I understand.
Yeah, that's right. But my thoughts are really in India right now. So I hope it's getting better.
No, it is not getting better. We are still at the same level. In fact, today is the highest number of deaths ever. More than 4,000 persons dying in one day. It is the highest record ever for the country.
Yeah, I saw the news. It was here in the news too. It is very, very terrifying.
That's why I think the vaccine collaboration is quite important now.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is. Yes.
Yeah, we need to move away from this idea of everybody just grabbing for themselves and make sure that the whole world's covered.
That's why I was talking to Varun that there's a possibility that we could possibly get the Cuban vaccine to be produced without having the patents kind of things. But there are not, we need some international kind of a support for that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Have they been successful in their trials? The Cubans?
Yes. They have trial 3 is over. Now they are vaccinating their local population. You see, so Banana 2-3, it is kind of a sovereignty. It's called, and which is now Mexico is negotiating for protection in Mexico. Ethiopia is trying to do that, and so Iran has already a collaboration with Cuba. So I don't know why India, being the largest vaccine producing country, should not look into this avenue as well.
And what kind of cost is it? Because I know the AstraZeneca one is, you know, it's like £2.50. It's next to nothing compared to the other ones. Is the Cuban one cheap to produce, or?
Yeah, very cheap because they use technology using yeast and kind of things, you know. Okay. So and which is very, very inexpensive. And if you need, I could sort of link you up with people. You know, I'm based in Havana at this point of time. If you need any kind of links and leads in making this possible, I'll be willing to do that.
No, that's good to know. It's such a wonderful.
Alistair, where are you based?
I'm sorry, I'm in Scotland.
Okay, great. You're having COP26 coming now.
Yes.
Hello, Dr. Kirti Singh. Welcome.
And hi to Fiona and Jonathan as well.
Hello, Jonathan and Fiona.
Hello all. Hello. Nice to connect in and see you all again.
Yes.
Jonathan, you are based in which city?
We're in Galway.
Yes, Galway.
On the west coast of Ireland.
Okay.
And this morning we were swimming in the Atlantic Ocean.
Not possible.
And it's still very cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can well believe it. Right. Do we want to give it a couple of minutes, or do you want to just start? What do you think?
I think we can start.
Yes. Okay. So Varun, you were going to take us through a bit more detail today. Is there anything else you want to go over? Do you want to do any? It sounds like we've kind of done a bit of an introduction to people as they've been coming in. Do you want to just start, or what do you want to do?
I think we'll start with our regular short silence and meditation. That has been a tradition of the Manavodaya journey for last 30 years. So just quiet time, 2 minutes, thinking about our thoughts, our actions, our deeds, just reflecting on them. And if possible, trying to connect to the universal consciousness. A short period of silence. Okay, welcome back. Today we'll try to describe what is it exactly that we are trying to achieve in this Manavodaya movement, which has now spread to countries beyond India, societies beyond India. It has been a very long journey, almost 40 years. It all started when I abandoned a rosy career with the huge multinational company Tata's. That was with a very clear Vedantic thought to work on my life, the Vedantic thought, which says that society changes when every individual changes. But very soon when I was studying at the Indian Institute of Management, Kolkata, we had these leftist professors there. Calcutta has a very strong leftist tradition. And there my teacher made me read the originals, Karl Marx and Engels and so on. So there was a confusion about what comes first. Does the society change first? And so which creates conditions for the individuals to change? Or do the individuals change first? that leads to social change. You know, this chicken and egg problem. I'm describing this because this is what has evolved at Manavodaya. We are talking of self-awareness together with collective awareness as a means of definite change, of bringing change in almost all spheres of life: poverty eradication, injustice, inequality, agriculture, health, you name it. The process is, as we have discovered over last 40 years, it's all about individual awareness and collective awareness. What is this all about? I just wanted to share this with you because we have launched several courses on the subject, which are useful for youth, which are useful for citizens, which are useful for anyone who wants to make a difference. Now, you know, after I graduated from Kolkata, from IIM Kolkata, you can say, having finished my task there, I was for a short time at the Institute of Development Studies, Sussex. Now, most of these academic institutions world over tend to be leftist oriented. So I had written a research paper there, which was also left oriented. That means we're trying to analyze society, why things go wrong. And it was published in the famous Journal of World Development from Oxford. And I was famous at the age of 24, 25. I was already a fellow there. I was famous already trying to write all this kind of leftist stuff, giving seminars. But then my inner conscience didn't allow me. I had started on this journey because of a deep Vedantic thought that individual consciousness is all about change. And because of that, we withdrew from everything from the academic world, came back to India in 1985 and started this idea of Manavodaya. Manavodaya means human awakening. We were absolutely young. We had no experience, no connections, no money. And that is how we started. And what we learned was fantastic. It was money all around. Government giving grants to very poor people, donors having money. And it was a loot. People looting. You know, the Prime Minister of the time said only 15% of the money reaches the poor. So this is what we observed as young people. Development is all about throwing money at people. And we were totally confused because we saw that the whole idea of development and change was about how much can I grab from that loot. And it was not just about loot. So, you know, we were working with various kinds of, you know, let's say professionals at the village level, the poorest segments of society. And when we enabled a group of carcass flayers to win an auction bid, a huge amount of money started pouring in their hands because they had won the auction. They were selling the dead animals now to the market. And they started getting 10 times the money they were getting for dead animals. Now that created a huge rift among them and they started fighting among themselves, almost killed each other. This is when we realized, we are again very young, that change and development is not about money. It's about something different. It's about collective consciousness, the collective awareness of how to be together, how to do things together, how to set up systems of collective decision making, how to set up systems of acting collectively in everybody's interest. Now, we had to therefore find out what is the best way of doing it. And therefore, this whole movement of self-help came about by this understanding that it is a collective awareness where people come together and are able to, you know, go beyond immediate self-interest, look at what is needed. It required, as we found out, need for a collective vision. That implies that if there are a group of women in a village, or there are a group of women anywhere, or even young people, what is it that they are trying to achieve? What is the goal, the immediate goal or the larger goal? So when we entered into a discussion always with this, we found a lot of diverging opinions. We always had to facilitate a process through which people could come to a single opinion of what to do. And working together with a common vision. Once there was a common vision, and I can tell you of this, there's so many stories, whatever I am speaking has so many stories behind each word that I speak. So when we did this for a group in Ethiopia, the women were they were not willing to have an opinion. We said, nothing doing. He said, go back at home at night, think about it. What is it that we want to achieve together? And next morning, they did have a single, collective vision. What are we trying to achieve? To have a collective vision means to facilitate a collective awareness. What are our immediate problems? What are the issues on which we can work together for a positive gain, to be able to work together? This is what we call collective awareness. It has to be facilitated. Now, this is not easy. It is not easy because the society is divided. In all societies, there are all kinds of divisions. In India, it is the caste lines. They're divided along caste lines. There's very strong feudal mindsets. They're very strong gender mindsets. And in a way, people are always, at cross purposes. So within such a society, how do we go forward? How do we facilitate a process through which people are able to look within? Now, Paulo Freire, many of you must have heard of Paulo Freire. He talked of conscientization, a process through which people are able to analyze their own situation. But, in India or in many other countries, it's not just conscientization. It's also trying to look at one's own systems, what works, what does not work. And so we called it collective awareness. This facilitation method, it's not an academic concept. One has to really, we call this in English, we call it social mobilization, enabling people to work together. This process does not happen on its own. It has to be facilitated. Now, who is the person who can facilitate such a process? Because it is so fundamental for evolution of any group of persons, the whole process of being able to sit together and talk together. This requires facilitators who are having a sense of self-awareness themselves. They must be able to understand what are the contradictions in my own self. And we all have so many contradictions. So what are these keys to self-awareness? That's as we explored, as we found out gradually over time. It is a process of freeing oneself from all our biases, from all our prejudices, from all our preconceived notions, from our habits. It's very well documented in the, let us say, the literature from many civilizations, especially the Indian civilization. I've been reading literature from the Chinese civilization, from the Greek civilization, but more for the Indian civilization. And I find that the concept of cleanliness, as they say, in Hindi in Sanskrit, they call it shauch, is basic to the process of evolution. Becoming free from all the biases that we have. And we all have so many biases, prejudices of all kinds. Then we have this additional, things that we have to reject. The whole idea of greed, envy, hatred, lust, they all take us into different directions. So as a human being, we are actually in a soup. We are a mixture of 100 things going on inside our minds. So unless we free ourselves from this mixed, arrogance that we can call, which is, we are unable to, how can we actually guide the other person? So that is why almost from 90s onwards, we had started training at Manavodaya in the whole idea of building self-awareness through simple sessions where we could share, everyone was able to share a process of one's own feelings and thoughts towards any particular agenda. This we have been feeling is basic to the whole understanding of life, to the understanding of our own self, and also to gradually enable others to move in the right direction. And these are not just words. We are having this, facing this on a day-to-day basis in our relationships with our close friends, with our relatives, with our, with people around. And all the time we find that we lose our balance. We, on very, idiotic things, I would say, which are based very often on our biases, very often on our greed. How can we gradually overcome these? And this is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. As much of the Indian civilization ethos says, this process can take a whole lifetime. But then it is all about being aware of it. It's about being mindful of it, as the Buddhists say. So just by being aware of it, we are able to gradually move forward. This becomes a fundamental process of achieving change. being aware of our follies. We can't overcome them overnight, but we can move in a particular direction. We can gradually start understanding that, yes, we have this folly. This awareness is the beginning of change, of self-awareness. But it requires a sudden shift in perspective. That means we must aspire to have a true knowledge. We must aspire to collect to a larger consciousness. So as Sri Aurobindo said, it is about aspiration. While we have the rejection of these, greed, envy, hatred, but it's also, we cannot do that unless we aspire for true knowledge. So this aspiration has to be there at the same time. But also we have to, very, very often we know it. It's about the arrogance, the ego. Unless we are able to cut down on our egos, cut down on our arrogance, we will reach nowhere. All this becomes the theoretical stuff to be just understood intellectually. If we have to move forward, we have to cut our arrogance, we have to cut our egos, we have to reject all the allurements that are coming from greed and envy and so on. This together is a task. We have to gradually move forward and be at least aware of it, even if we are not able to take much steps forward. This is what we call self-awareness. And a person who's self-aware becomes much more useful for society, because then when he connects to people, he connects to people quite easily then, because connection requires humility. Being human, when you are connecting to a very poor person, one has to be very humble. One must be able to respect their opinion. One must be able to, be part of their existence in a way, free from biases. One has to be close to them physically, mentally, emotionally. One can call it empathy of physical, mental, emotional kind. Once we have that empathy, connection is automatic. It is brilliant connection. People immediately understand you. You are able to communicate whatever you want to do very easily. Unfortunately, in our educational system today, we are not told, we are not taught these methods of creating empathy, these methods of being human, these methods of removing biases, these methods of becoming a part of their existence. We go there as experts, and that is where the communication fails. And this is the tragedy of all this development nonsense. So to be able to create this collective awareness, we have to build self-awareness also. And this is what we have evolved over time. The whole idea of self-help group movement, and we are known as the pioneers of this movement. We trained thousands of people, government officers, bank officers, NGOs, international scholars over 20 years. And this is what we were training them in. How to create a process of collective awareness. In the Indian case, it led to the self-help movement. In the case in the West, it could lead to something else. It will need a lot of experimentation of how to use the collective awareness process, how to create collective awareness, and how then to have systems of collective decision making and action. But it requires first a facilitator. It requires a person first who's having this self-awareness himself or herself. So over the last few years, we are gradually now, there are so many people who want to make a difference to the world, who want to be a change agent, who want to do something useful to the world, and they are confused about what to do. So this can be very easily, because this idea of self-awareness, it can be broken into very simple incremental steps. We call them simple steps in action. These have evolved over time. In our case, they evolved over 20 years. These simple steps in action can be shared with the youth. It can be shared with ordinary citizens, and they can start with very small, simple steps. This is a part of small courses that we run sometimes, but these are fundamental to evolution of our own being, to understand what we are, and then to enable others to move in that direction. So the one idea of change, therefore, is to enable vast numbers of students, of even citizens, or even philanthropists, because philanthropists are simply giving. They don't know whom to give, what to give, and why to give. So even training philanthropists in what basic change is all about. But at the same time, this also requires, as we have understood, because we have been working on this for last, on the education part, we have been working for last almost 15 years. But when we create these facilitators of change, the market is not there ready for them. So now we have come to understanding that we have to create some kind of foundation, some kind of financial base through which people who now understand the process of facilitation, of building self-awareness, of self-help, of empowerment, and so on, they can be supported, they can be trained, they can be guided continuously over time. Because the normal method of doing things is very mechanical. The government does it in a very mechanical manner. It makes no sense at all. It doesn't lead to anything useful. It doesn't lead to anything sustainable. So if we have to create a process of sustainable change, we have to work with self-awareness. We have then to gradually enable a process of facilitation, learning the process of facilitation and creating self-awareness, which automatically, as we have seen in the Indian self-help movement, leads to poverty elevation. It leads to reducing of inequality. It leads to meeting of social justice. It leads to meeting of local governance. Anything that you say, because people together are collectively thinking about it and acting on that, and they are able to make things happen locally. Once they are able to make things happen locally, there is a process of putting a group together at larger areas, and we call them federating, and they can take on larger challenges. So this process of change starts with self-awareness, has to move towards enabling a process of collective awareness, and we feel that this is fundamental to the process of meaningful, sustainable change. I would like to stop here because there are so many people watching here. I would like to get a feedback, even in this case of COVID. There are so many phenomena, and you can easily share what are these phenomena through which we can use this process of self-awareness and collective awareness to move forward. Martin, I would like to stop here because it's good to have more discussion on the subject rather than me speaking.
Okay, so does anybody want to come in? Any of the things? So Varun's talked about many different aspects there. Any particular ones that anybody wants to pick up on? There was a couple of things in the chat. Anatha was saying about, unfortunately, the concept of cleanliness took a caste orientation and became a way to discriminate. We need to be aware of this. In addition, industrialization and the building of the modern temples of industry has contributed to the pollution of our rivers and air, making cleanliness a distant dream. I don't know, Anatha, do you want to expand on that at all?
Yes, what I was saying was that as Varun was saying, that cleanliness is part of the cultural tradition. Over the period of time, I think, certain groups of people, caste, they took over cleanliness as their own domain, and it became sort of, other people sort of got left out in the process, so that, oh, you're not clean because you belong to this caste kind of a thing. So, and this is something that has to change. This is something it has to become an ethos of the whole nation kind of thing. Then again, our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, he said, we have temples, but we need modern temples. What happened with all these modern temples now? They have polluted all our holy rivers. The air is polluted. Delhi is impossible to live. So we have not ingrained our basic understanding of the holistic approach in the modern context. That's why I think there's a disconnect between our collective memory of the past and what we're doing at the moment. And what we're witnessing about the COVID also, one of the results of that, I think.
Thank you for sharing. That's really interesting. Anybody else want to come in with any reflections, any thoughts themselves?
We have Angela from Mexico. We would like to hear, Angela, what are the issues that are in the minds of rural women in Mexico?
Non ho capito la domanda, mi sono addormentato. Che altre? No, io non posso partecipare oggi, non sto in condizioni. I have to think.
Yes, you can come back later, Angela. Doesn't matter.
Yes.
I guess one of the things that's made me think about is this whole idea of abundance mentality and scarcity mentality, that some of the, particularly with the COVID, the idea that we all just grab for ourselves rather than work out how we can share and have enough for everybody. And then this whole idea of accountability, that people sometimes feel less accountable to those that they don't see as equal to them. And that one of the strong messages that I think Manavodaya gives is that you start by valuing people who have not traditionally been valued. You know, you sit down at people's level, and you don't come from a position of expertise and power. You treat everybody as the expert in their own lives. And I think that demonstration of the power shift is one of the most powerful things, because until you live it, you can talk all you like. And I think that's one of the interesting things about your story about, you know, you can write papers, but papers don't do that much to change the world, because it only affects certain parts of society. Any other thoughts?
Yes, Sunil.
Yeah, thanks, Varun.
Sunil,
I
can you
always
just introduce
enjoy.
yourself, because there are lots of new people here.
Hi, sorry.
Please introduce yourself, because some new people are around.
Oh yes, of course. Hi Varun. Hi everybody. Hi Alistair. Thank you for having me. Now, you know, I'm actually Varun's classmate, going back to 1971. So we know each other for 50 years. Not many people can lay a claim to that, except my other friend who is there, Chandra Prakash, who also was with us in the same hall in 1971. So we all know Varun for 50 years, and we have known him, loved him, and respected him all these years, and especially for what he does. I am an independent consultant in ocean and environmental governance, and I work in the area of ocean policy, and we always think how dire the situation of the world is. I mean, that's what we all generally think. But I've been reading a lot lately, especially during the COVID time for the last 1.5 years. A lot of reading, thinking, speaking also on webinars, and a little bit of writing. And one of the things that I'm convinced about is the world is a better place today for a human being than it ever was in the entire history of humanity. So that's one thing I'm totally convinced about. So that brings me to the point of optimism, and that's what I think Varun's work is all about. And he works because he gets up in the morning and he has got this optimism to make a difference. And that's the same thing with me. My whole motto is that our whole thinking must change, and that change must come from within. Now, why are people like Aruna, why are people like me optimistic despite what we see around us? The reason I gave you is one, of course, that is a factual reason, that the world is a better place today than ever for the human beings, human being as a whole. There are lots of strife and everything going on, but as an average human being today is much better off than ever in the world. But the most important thing is optimism is not something as a celebration or something that we are sort of gung-ho about, but optimism is a kind of courageous choice, you know, to remain grittily determined to find the solutions in a timely and a collaborative way. That's what we are doing as environmentalists. That's what all my colleagues do. I do the same thing. And we have really no choice but to address issues such as, you know, climate change, which is a big issue. We talk of COVID now as a big issue, but even a bigger issue than that is climate change, which we don't pay so much attention to. But even bigger than climate change, there is the issue of what we call as nitrogen fixation or nitrogen cycle, which is a bigger issue than climate change, and most of us don't even know about it. We hear of climate change, but we have not heard. Not many of us think about nitrogen cycle, loss of or disruption of nitrogen cycle. And even bigger than that, even bigger than all these three: COVID, climate change, and nitrogen cycle, is the issue of the loss of biological diversity. So these are some of the huge problems. These are existential problems threatening the humanity. But we have no choice but to address them scientifically. And I'm very firm believer of science. You know, all this mumbo jumbo about everything else is rubbish. Science is the most important thing. And science is not only physical sciences or natural sciences, but science is natural science and social sciences also, both. Both of them are equally important. None of them is less than the other. Even Einstein said so. So the important thing is that we have to address climate change and all these other existential issues, and which is why people like Varun, people like I, people like so many of us, we get up in the morning and do what we do, because there is no choice than doing the right thing. I always say, do the right thing because it is the right thing to do. You know, there's no reason for doing it other than it is the right thing to do. Not because it is making me more money, not because it is making me more popular, not because it is winning me the next election, not because my chairmanship in the company is renewed for the next 5 years. No, none of those reasons. Do the right thing because it is the right thing to do. And that's the only choice we have as sensible human beings, knowing fully well that we are at the best time of humanity ever in our history. Thanks.
Thanks very much for that. We've also got another couple of comments in the chat. Pete's asking about, mentioning about philanthropists and others wanting to see change in terms of the greatest number for the greatest benefit for the greatest number, a utilitarian approach. Does Manavodaya take a slightly different, small is beautiful and sustainable change, just as important through lots of small actions? Is there anything else you wanted to add to that, Pete?
No, it's partly just a provocative question for the discussion. I did notice in your information, Varun, before this meeting, and from the background of Amla, your wife, who's obviously done lots of work with Manavodaya as well. You know, some of her background is with the Schumacher Institute. And, you know, Schumacher being famous for that whole quote of small is beautiful. So there are big questions, and certainly some of the things Sunil touched on then, you can't have small solutions, and I do understand that. But when we start thinking about individuals making change, it isn't always about those great big global ambitions. It's around, what do I change in my life and those around me, as opposed to always wanting to see growth and size of organizations and power, kind of, which somehow becomes corrupting.
Well, I can only respond by saying that Schumacher had a huge influence on me when I was studying. I was young. Small interventions become big, become huge if they are designed in that manner. You know, the self-help movement, for example, it's a decentralized movement, but it connects to huge numbers. So small interventions do have value. Macro interventions, they also have value. We have to find ways in which the small interventions where people have a choice are able to merge together, fit together. Well, they'll never be able to fit together unless people are enabled to raise their voice, put their voice forward in a manner which is beneficial to everyone. So the idea of self-awareness, I'm coming back to self-awareness again and again, because whatever we do, there are sometimes the issues are very selfish in a way. They're based on my being able to retain my jobs. 60% of the people in professional jobs, there is a study by some agency in UK, are not happy with their jobs. They're there simply because they want the money part of it. Now therefore, can I be more honest with myself? Can I be, you know, can I be more genuine to myself so that I'm actually, through my own actions, I'm able to raise the level of humanity. So, so it's not just about doing things at a macro level. It's about also being true to oneself.
And that reminds me, Varun, just in terms of how sometimes we can put the blinkers up. We can think we don't have choices, but actually some of the choices we do have, but they're just difficult choices. We can choose a different job that maybe does more, but it doesn't give us as much money, for example. But we worry, we create the impression that I need this size of house or this new car or whatever it is, so that we create this idea that with this dependence on it. And you obviously, as part of your earliest move away from all of the focus on professional climbing the ladder and stuff, you walked about as far away from that as you could, as it's possible to take. How hard was that journey for you for that first couple of years when you were reflecting with people? Did you find yourself drawn back to that, or what was going through your mind during that period of time?
I would like to address this in a very, let's say, honest manner. It's not easy. It's not easy to take such a bold decision because one doesn't know where one is going, because the road ahead is unclear. One has to experiment. One has to experiment with so many things. One has to experiment with relationships, for example. Your friends throw you out of their relationship circle. Your family throws you out. So there has to be some experimentation there. But the point is, as I was saying in my presentation, the idea is about the aspiration. What are we trying to aspire for in our life? Is it just about having a good job, having some, being able to live a comfortable life, but yet having, let us say, a conscience in which we feel crushed? Is that life all about? Are we willing to think about life in a deeper way? And therefore, I come back to the whole issue of connecting to the youth. I think youth wants to live a better life. They want to live a life where they are able to give something to society, but yet they do not know. I feel we must, therefore, as a Manavodaya movement, we must gradually try and start connecting to youth, enable them to take those small incremental steps so that they start understanding the wider implications of everything that they do, the wider implications of every small action, and which makes, if we are able to do that, they are able to not only help themselves, even if they are not very well off financially, but they are able to help many more. I don't know what Ilirida has to say. Ilirida, you have been through this journey of chaos, you can say. What do you feel about it?
Yeah, definitely. I think with the jobs I have and the experience I have here in Norway, I think job opportunities is just one-to-one casework, and that for me has been like a bit challenging to work that way, because you had the chance maybe to have 10 cases and to help only 10 people. So for me, it has been like a very big change, the step that I took and quit my job and try to think another manner. Right now it's a bit chaos with my master disease, but I think, as you say, it's not easy because you have to experience a lot and you have to learn a lot on your own, and then connect with the right people. I think to get the chance to explore more in what change, what you can change out there, and how can you manage it to do it in a lot big manner. So yeah, I have been in that path, and I still am, and I haven't found yet the way, but I think this is a good start to think and to reflect on what possible change, and especially for the youth, because it's, especially with the mental health issues and all that comes with it. I'm really ambitious in getting engaged a larger group to work on themselves more and not let the society take over and just, as we say here in Norway, get a like a ball thrown in all the systems around. So you just like in the middle and try to get along with the system around, instead of having maybe more people around you that is in the same problem or the same feelings as you have in the situation. So getting together and getting the youth together and reflect on their own situation, and so that we can break some barriers around that. And it's still very stigmatized, how you say it, it's taboo still that way. So break that more and get them together and normalize it, so you can feel the change within you. So I think that's my hope.
Yes, yes. Thank you. We have Dr. Kirti Vikram Singh, Dr. Singh. We have Dr. Lata Bajpayee, who work with students. What is your opinion? Do you see students in terms of in future?
I thank you for giving me opportunity to speak. I was thinking about it, and greetings to all the members on the platform. Well, I am an assistant professor, and being an academician, I get a chance to interact with the students. And it has been around 15, 16 years to me in academics, and I have seen a major shift in the kind of audience I handled before and the kind of audience I am handling now. Like previously, I was in Delhi NCR where premier institutions were there, and now I am with a government university. And government university caters to the masses. It caters to the different segment of the people who may not afford lakhs of rupees and hefty fees. And these people, what I personally feel is they can be, there is a huge scope to work on these students, because when I work with the students who paid hefty fees, some hefty academic fees, they were quite mobilized by themselves. They had huge pressure on them to convert the outcomes out of the investment that they made. But here, as it is a government university, I can see that there is not big difference on the students if they do not convert the outcomes. So what I feel that another very important problem that I could see among the youth is again the caste system, the division in the society, where even everything will go fine, everything is wonderful, but suddenly in between, some casteism, some religion will come into the picture, and the students get divided, and then the agenda gets diluted. So since last 3-4 years, I am strongly thinking to work on this caste related issues, where people need to understand, see, this all casteism, these all things are there, uh, do prevail, but we need to be the change agent to make people understand ultimately it is humanity for which we need to work, rather than, see, agendas are common. Some agendas are common. Like in COVID time, so many people, irrespective of caste, religion, and the places, they started helping each other like anything. When the pain was common, when the issues were common, they came up. So somehow we need to really work upon creating equality among the people. And when you go to the rural areas, the inequality is more, and then people who are unaware, who are not very sensitized about their issues pertaining to their requirements, they are more into this caste, etc., and they waste a lot of time, which is very precious, and they can be mobilized. So that is one area. And another thing is, once they are clear in their minds that they need to work for themselves, irrespective of the divisions, for the entire community as a whole, they have huge potential. They have these youth have maximum power, because with the age, with the maybe growing times, we may not have the same sort of energy at the 60s, 65s. So what I feel that these students need to have fire in their belly to come out of their shell and contribute to the society. The only thing lacking is they need awareness that their life matters and they should be remembered as something or someone once they go out of the earth, right? So that's the kind of craze is to be filled into their minds, that how do you want to be remembered once you live your complete life? How do you want people to remember you at the end of the day? So the kind of contribution they can make, they will think about. So I personally feel that more awakening exercises and more connection, more sensitive, more dialogue is needed to make them aware. And out of 100, if we can mobilize at least 4 or 5, then also it makes a lot of sense, because they are going to give back to the society.
Exactly. Madam, this is what the Manavodaya movement is all about. So thank you for sharing your views.
Thank you.
Dr. Kirti, would you like to say something?
Yes, sir, definitely. First of all, I would like to welcome all present out here. I am Dr. Kirti Vikram Singh. I am working in Indira Gandhi National Open University, Regional Center, Lucknow. And we are talking about bringing positive changes in the society. What I think can develop the world can be made a better place. There are people who are doing it. Manavodaya, as far as I know, is working on it. And we are here to support them. The concept of self-help group in India is based on it. The successful groups have proven themselves. And I'm also associated with National Service Scheme, where youth are doing very well. They are taking small interventions like making rural community and slums sustainable. And in COVID times, we have already seen that they have organized community kitchens and running different groups for helping the needy. And they are doing a very good job. So I think value-based education and training is very necessary, and so that positivity and good deeds can be multiplied.
We also have a person, Raj, from Goa, who has been working on similar issues. Raj, you'll not be here for long. Can you share your views on how to take this concept forward among the youth?
Hi, good evening. I was happy listening to all the ideas being shared. And the one specific area of working with the youth, I think that is something that we can definitely try, test it out. Over the last 12 years, we have also created a program called, we have called it the Essence of Freedom. And the Essence of Freedom is also an awakening and nurturing program, awakening and nurturing human genius with wisdom and well-being. Or in another very short sentence is exploring the scientist and the sage within. That is another tagline of this program. And along with the kind of work, because Varun ji and I have been interacting over the last 5-6 years now, and we realize that the time has come for us to see how we can link from one generation to the next, so that the continuity between intergenerations can be sort of established, and all the work that has been done can also be then taken forward. So I think we need this industry, I mean the academia, industry and civil society linkage. And I would be very keen to work with each one of you to see how we can actually work on a step-by-step plan from here onwards. So at least we can then take it forward step by step.
Thank you,
Raji. Thank you.
A couple of people had their hands up. Apetruso, and then Sunil as well. Apetruso? Yes, yourself.
Angela, her name is Angela.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Angela, can you introduce yourself first?
Yes, I'm Angela Petruzzo, and I'm one of the founding members of this Mexican organization, which is called El Hombre sobre la Tierra.
And we're working on different issues. We are trying to create opportunities for the Mayan communities. So we work on bettering agriculture, integrating agriculture with animal rearing, and doing work with women in creating jobs for them. So we've established, for example, different workshops, manufacturing clothes, weaving hammocks, and carpentry, community tourism. But last night I wanted to ask you, a lot of the women have a very low self-esteem. And last night we were talking to this woman who has decided to come to the city to work. She's in Merida now. And she's accepted a meagerly job to send some money, very low money, to the two kids that her parents, one is with the mother-in-law and the other one is with her mother. Now, we were trying to ask her, is there something that you want to do for yourself? And she wasn't able to really answer that question. So it takes time for them to come out of this very low self-esteem. So how can you accelerate this process?
Angela, I can sense a pain in what you're saying, and we have been feeling this pain with a large number of women. When we started work way back in the 90s, most of the women were in even a worse situation, because in India, for example, very poor family they often take a loan from a money lender in which they have to pay back with 10% per month interest, and in which they cannot pay back, so they lose their land, they lose everything in a way. So they have nothing absolutely. So there is no question of esteem there at all. No question of low self-esteem. There is no esteem. People lose their whole process of thinking. So we have to start from there. We started from there. It was all about discussing with them as friends, sitting in their lives and understanding what is it that sustains them at the moment. Now let me give you an example, because examples will help. Theory doesn't help so much. We were in a place, in a village in district Allahabad, where women used to break stones. Breaking stones is the most terrible jobs of anything of one can imagine. Breaking stones by hand, just using a hammer. And they would get, in return for a whole day of breaking stones, they would just get 2 kilograms of rice. 2 kilograms of rice only for the whole day for breaking stones. And when we started connecting to some of these women, they said that they had nothing in their house, literally nothing. They didn't have a house also, it was just a mud structure, even without a door. Animals would go inside the house and start sleeping there. So they said that, look, we have these mud houses, and there's a river flowing nearby, a rivulet, and every time the big people, they do the fishing there, the water spreads around and their mud houses fall. So imagine, Angela, the situation of these women. They are not even having a job, they're not even having any esteem at all, and on the other hand, their mud houses fall because some big man there does some fishing and stops the flow of the water in the nearby stream. So when we had a long discussion with them, we first understood that the priority, first of all, is not about food. The priority is not it's about their house falling every time. So when we talked about that, and we said that let us take that as our immediate agenda, and they all agreed, yes, this has to be our immediate agenda. Angela, the first thing is to be able to come to a common vision, the short-term vision. What our people are ready for. It cannot be a single solution. It has to be a collective solution, Angela. It has to be a collective solution. And for that, we need to sit together with them and find out what is it that they want to work together on. So when they first started thinking about it, and they said, no, the first thing is to stop the river from block. We said that one day them together go and talk to the person who's blocking the rivulet. They said that we are very poor people. How can we talk to the person? So we shared the idea with them that no, poor doesn't matter. Together we can do that. Let us go and try it. Let us go and talk to them collectively. They had the courage. They went there, talked to them collectively, and the problem was resolved because 10 women coming to and talking to some rich guy about not stopping water flow. Now, this is what gave the women the confidence that yes, the life is worth living. Together we can do something. Now, this was the beginning of a long journey because then these women, they started saving a handful of rice because they were getting only 2 kilos of rice. They started saving a handful of rice every day and putting it in a pot in their own house. And at the end of the month, all the rice and they were able to give a loan to somebody. Angela, this is the beauty of the process. We have to enable the very poor to start coming together to have a common vision and then a common agenda and then a common system of decision making. And this is what throws open. It leads to huge rise in self-esteem, but it has to start from a different setting where we sit together, have a long dialogue on what is our collective priority. Angela, I just wanted to say that this is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. We have to work on it, but it does work. It does work ultimately. People take life into their own hands and it has a beautiful impact.
Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Sunil, I think you were going to come back in.
Yeah, if I may, I just heard some comments and I thought, I will just say one or two things. The first one was about small is beautiful. And obviously, I was lucky to be walking every day past ITDG, the Intermediate Technology Group on Southampton Road, because I used to live in Parsfield Hall at one end near Euston, and then walk to LSE, which is in Aldwych. So I used to pass that road every day. And whenever I had a chance, I used to walk in and read the books there and read the little things and all that. And the thing that struck me was he was talking about intermediate technology. So I discussed this with people there. I mean, because E.F. Schumacher had already died in 1977. I'm talking about 1988, 89, around that time. And I said, what did he mean by intermediate technology? And I read the book, and then I found out that it was not about high technology and low technology and something in between, which was shoddy or something like that. No, what he was talking about is appropriate technology. So that's the first thing that was important, that you can't have high technology or low technology solutions everywhere. A high technology solution might work somewhere, a low technology solution might work somewhere, but appropriate technology will work everywhere. So that was a key issue there. And the subtitle of the book, actually, I still remember, is Small is Beautiful, as if economics, as if people mattered. So, I mean, people was the number one priority there, not profit. I have a triptych, I call it people, planet, and profit. We have focused too much on profit for too long, and which is why we see what we see around us, that people are suffering and the environment is suffering. If we had focused on the people, things would have been better. If we had focused on the environment, everything would have been better. Everything would have benefited. In fact, there is a most recent publication by Partha Dasgupta of Cambridge University. It was done by the UK government, and it's called The Economics of Biodiversity. And it clearly says that had we, even today, it's not too late, had we started to look after our biodiversity, our environment, our profits would have multiplied, actually, not remained as they are, number one. And the same thing has been made by a 2005 report by Lord Stern, 2006 report by Lord Stern, who was my professor at LSE. And that was called The Economics of Climate Change. And exactly the same thing he says again, that if we had focused on climate change, our profits would have multiplied and not remained threatened by these externalities. Now, the other thing is about students. I don't use the word student at all. In fact, in the UK, many places I've been in the university sector in the UK for over 3 decades now, and we call them clients now, actually, which might be a bit of a thing to say. But I have never called them students, because every cohort of students I learn from that and learn. It's possible for me to teach them more than they teach me, because there is 40, 50, 100 of them, and I'm only one. And every time I do a lecture, they'll ask me a question at the end of a few questions at the end of the lecture. Half the questions I can answer, half the questions I can't answer. That takes me straight back to my books, and I learn more because I want to answer the questions next time when I meet them. So I think there is nothing like a student nowadays. Everybody is a teacher. And student also is not a concept of somebody who is a school student or whatever. My guru Elizabeth Manborghese used to talk of children. She used to say everybody is a child or has to be a child, and she used to say children from 8 to 80. And I asked her once, why children from 8 to 80? And because she said that it is at the age of 8 that little animals become human beings. That was her answer. And then I said, why 80? And she was around 60 something at that time. I was in my 20s, late 20s. And she said, old age is your age plus 20. So that's why currently it's 80. She said, when I get older, it will be longer, So the reason she said that the reason she called them children is because a child is curious. I saw a program somewhere on TV once, and it said a little child asks 500 questions every day. But as we grow older, we stop asking questions. As we grow older, we stop asking questions because we are conscious. We are worried that somebody might think we are stupid because we are asking stupid questions, or so on. But children ask the question. The day you lose that curiosity and the day you stop asking questions, you stop being a human being. That was according to her. So that's why that is this whole thing about child. And then Lata was talking about issues and needs. And I have a thing called pin diagram, I call it. The pin diagram is positions, issues, needs. So if you imagine a volcanic atoll, with little bit showing on top of the sea and the rest of it submerged into the sea, the top is the position that we take. And if you take the atolls, there is lots of these little islands. And every man that they say is an island. That was famous John Donne. Now you are sitting on your own island and saying, oh, I'm the most important. I'm the guru, so I'm important. I'm the farmer, I'm the most important. I'm the scientist, I'm the most important. I'm the politician, I'm the most important, and so on. But so that's the position. So everybody has got these intransigent positions, intransigent positions. But the issue is the same. If you go further deep, you find the islands are closer together. So the issue of what Indira Gandhi used to call as roti, kapra, and makan, that's true for everybody. Whether you are very rich or very poor, the final thing is roti, kapra, and makan, food, clothing, and shelter. That's what all of us need. And the needs, the final thing, the base is common. All our needs are the same, so that can never change. And I mean, just to touch upon finally one or two very little things, that Varun Vidyarthi is very famous, very, very wisely chosen the title of his organization, Manavodaya. And I don't know whether it comes from what I'm saying, but I don't know. But Sarvodaya used to be something by Vinoba Bhave. Vinoba Bhave used to talk of Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya means all of us must rise. And then Mahatma Gandhi modified that somewhat. And he says, yes, Sarvodaya is also very good. But most importantly, it has got to be Antyodaya. The last man standing or the last woman standing must also benefit from the civilization, benefit from the development, etc. And until that Sarvodaya and Antyodaya happens through Manavodaya, everything else will not happen. Everything else, like education and awareness, whether the individual is going to do it at their level or global level or local level, all of those things are not going to happen until those three combine together. Sarvodaya, Manavodaya, and Antyodaya. And somebody mentioned NSS, just very small snippet that I don't know whether Varun was in NSS. I think you were. We
was,
were
yes.
all in NSS. We were all, in fact, group leaders by the time we went to our final year. And I thought that was a very good thing. This is talking about in the 70s, and I'm sure NSS must be doing so much more work now than we did in our time. But we also did our little bits. We used to plant trees and we used to educate children and stuff like that. So I thought I'll just make those interventions. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Sunil. I would like to simply say, coming back to the subject, that these interventions will actually happen when there is a process of self-awareness within us that will lead us to, ask more questions, for example, to understand, the curiosity is the fundamental thing, but the curiosity towards true knowledge, that is what self-awareness is all about. I wonder if Saxena Saab would like to say something. Saxena Saab, you have been hearing for a long time. Mr. Saxena?
मेरे से कह रहा हूँ विद्यार्थी जी
हाँ जी yes Saxena Saab no
Saxena I would have liked to say more but I'm just trying to recover. I came back from hospital only a few days back.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, COVID, so I'm just trying to assimilate more than contribute anything much.
That's all right, sir. That's all right, Chandraprakash. I'm also talking of Mr. Saxena, Mr. Prem, PM Saxena.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I saw him, yes.
The whole idea of self-awareness, do you see that possible to be shared among the youth?
What is self-awareness? Self-awareness requires us to go within us. And collective awareness is not to be an island in oneself, but to be together for a certain purpose, inspired by something higher, certain impulses, certain ideas, and develop a common consciousness, that is collective consciousness. At present, what we see is the world is too much with us. Getting and spending, we leave away some powers. When we see the direction in which the world is moving, the politics is moving, is towards economics, money. The entire world is revolving around this pivot of money business. What we are thinking in this platform is something different. Our youth, they worry more about their physical self, what is visible and tangible. Their earnings, their life, their security, economic security, social security, practically that is the position of the world. Particularly in poorer countries like India, as you said, Ethiopia and other countries, the poverty is so much that they are not able to think of self-awareness going within. They think how to keep their body and soul together. So unless and until we weave the two concepts together, the concept of self-awareness and keeping the body and soul together, all these discussions will be academic. So we must move from academic to realities of day-to-day life. That is what I will say. What's your opinion, Mr. Vidyarthi, about the current situation of the world?
Therefore, we have been framing what are called simple steps in action. Those simple steps are incremental, small steps that the youth can start taking. And let me illustrate by one very simple step. It is about looking at our functions within our own house. So the boy is having fun, is going around, but the girl is assisting the mother. the boy has nothing to do with washing of dishes, cooking, and so on. Now, there's injustice within the house itself. Now, if I'm reflecting back, if I'm looking at ways in which I'm free from biases and prejudices, I have to stop my conventional thinking and go into actually doing those things. I must force myself to wash the dishes this evening. So that way I'm enabling myself to free myself from a certain bias. So it is not about thinking, it is about doing things. Unless we start doing, it was once when Swami Narayanan, when a politician came to him, to the Swamiji, and was asking for his blessings, and was very keen to have his blessings, Narayanan told him that, look, there is a broom lying there, and he was sitting in a forest. And he said, can you please clean this? So it was a jungle full of leaves all over. So the whole idea is to actually start doing things and enabling our mind to cool down, remove our arrogance. So the self-awareness is about, as Sri Aurobindo said, of course, rejection of all the desires kind of things we have, greed and envy, but at the same time aspiring to have true knowledge. But then through action, and action as I have seen it is on little things that can be done in daily life. So that's what we are saying. The youth can start with such action. They can start challenging their own notions by small actions. And this is where we can guide them. That look, world is not about changing everything outside. Let us start with our own self, with our own houses. And let us see where we are. What impact does it create on our mindsets? So that is what I mean. We are not talking theory here. We are talking about practical things on ground to be done.
That leads us to the individual development.
Yes, it
development
has to start
from within,
with that.
individual development.
So self-awareness is a process of individual development.
And coming to self-awareness, we are conscious of our physical self, our mental self, and thirdly, our ego sense. And then there is our basic consciousness, which is the play field of our physical self, mental self, and vital self, our emotional self, cognitive self, affective self. So when we think of inner development from within, we have to go within ourselves, study our own impulses, our own desires, our own thinking, and then transform ourselves by aspiring for a higher cause and rejecting the negative movements within us.
Exactly.
Those negative movements are, as you say, those negative movements are our negative thoughts, promoting positive thoughts in our life.
So this can be done through incremental steps with the youth.
Yes, of course. Why not? Every person, every youth, we have to teach those young people to go to touch their inner life, to tell them what they are actually. We live a very surface type of living. In common day-to-day life, we live a very surface type of living. We have to teach our young men to go deep in their own self, study their own emotions, study their own thoughts, study their own ego sense, the ego sense that creates conflict in the society, conflict in the family, conflict in nations. So as Sherdo has said, so long as this ego sense is replaced by the spark of the divine that lives within us, unless this is done, unless ego is dissolved, the conflict will remain, injustices will remain. So our effort in individual development has to be dissolution of ego and bring the spark of the divine within on the surface to lure our lives, our physical life, our mental life, and our day-to-day life. so long as that divine sense in us, which we call psychic being in us in terms of Sri Aurobindo's terminology, so far as that comes up, that rules our lives, till then it is not possible to change the society. So effort should be to teach the people, to teach the younger generation, to teach the change makers to do a little sadhana. We call it sadhana, to bring that divine that is within us to come on the surface and rule our lives.
Exactly. Thank you. I mean, this is
And
what
that
is
is
implied in the simple steps in action that we are trying to run through our short courses.
And that is the process of evolution.
It is a
That
process.
is the
It is a
process of
process.
ever evolution.
Absolutely.
Evolution means from lower consciousness to higher consciousness. So long as our physical, vital, and mental, this remains to dominate our lives, the things will remain as they are.
Absolutely.
When we move onwards, we evolve ourselves from psychic to spiritual to supramental, as Sri Aurobindo has said, things are not going to change much.
Okay, that's fine. We also have a Dr. Vinod Chandra here who just recovered from COVID, from a very serious COVID problem. He and his wife. Welcome, Dr. Chandra. Do you have to say something on this subject? I also welcome Mr. S.P. Agrawal, who's the chairperson of Manavodaya.
Yeah. Thank you, Varunji, that you have invited me and not invited me. Rather, you have engaged me again in this academia, and not only academia, but the self-development program, because I believe that we people like me who have just gone through a very, very difficult or crisis situation and come up with a very successful Corona Yodha, what we call. The whole family was suffering, but now I'm with all of you with a full positive energy because of people like you. And today morning when I called you up just to pay my gratitude that people like you, and there are many people who conveyed their positivity, in fact, because we have to fight with this kind of deadly disease only through the positivity within us. And therefore, I'm here with you, and I really thankful to all my elders, seniors, and my youngsters who are here, and this whole family. Where I believe that this Manavodaya family is working or discussing a very, very fundamental issue. And during this 25 days of this trauma, I keep thinking on certain issues, and through this media and through these news channels and the newspapers, I came to know that people, how the moral degradation and morally people are going to the docks, and now they are doing business on dead bodies. So what my wife is also equivalent sociologist as like me, so we were discussing after having breakfast that how we have to come out with this situation when everything is in this world we have, but at the same time we are losing the values, losing the human values, and this is all actually a pandemic of human values as well. So we believe, I personally believe, that the moral teaching is missing out. And to whom, when I say moral teaching means, education system in India and all over the world where I got degrees and everywhere, and my daughter is outside. So I know that the education all over the world is imparting technical knowledge or the knowledge for material development. But what is lagging behind? When I see my parents, we were recalling our parents and my family's days. My parents were giving more human values, education of more human values rather than arithmetic or the computer science or any technical know-how, so that you will get a good business or you will get a good career in your life and earn a lot of money and then have a position. So we came to a conclusion that in this situation, what is happening, that we are not able to impart moral educations to our kids, to our youngsters. Therefore, this is all happening. And my dear friends, I realized that until or unless we provide moral, means education requires the equally importance to moral or what we call character building, charitra nirman. What charitra nirman is missing out in the whole process of education, and therefore we are unable to produce good human being, good insan, good person, and therefore doctors are involved in corrupt practices during this pandemic. There are many other professionals who were got involved in making money in a very short time. So this is all, why this is all happening? Because of the human values. So my dear friends, we realize that self-development with the moral development, or self-development is equal to the moral development, character development. We know many things in computers. We know many technical know-hows in computers. We know all the machines now. And gradually we are becoming more machine efficient persons. But human values side is, going down. And therefore in India, pandemic came, we got all that situation and we suffered a lot, but we suffered not because of the oxygen, but because of the character of the common youngsters or common peoples, where we lagged behind. So my dear friends, with these words, I wanted to listen more to all of you rather than sharing issues. And maybe Harmohan ji would like to comment on my issue. So give chance to Harmohan ji after me.
Wonderful. Kawatra sahab, welcome.
Very nice. I have been enjoying whatever we are discussing. I am putting 3 things in it. Number one, what you have said is gender sensitization. Now, gender sensitization has to be taught to boys first. Men have already become too late.
Yes.
I had the good luck of working with many women in UP government. Most of my subordinates are women. If they invited me ever for a cup of tea to their home, I put one condition only. And that was that if your son makes the tea, I'll come, otherwise I won't come. So gender sensitization is more related to teaching boys. And that has to be done by men, not by women. Men have to do it. Second issue is self-awareness. Now here, I find that young are really very good. They are interested. You go to any function with anywhere people are interested, young are interested. They need catalysts like Varun Vidyarthi. It is just them in that direction, not teaching them, but making them think and see what they can do. And here is third automatically comes out of this in education. One step we have already taken, yoga, meditation. It has started in most of the schools, and that will automatically include moral education. That's one good thing that has happened without much of effort. But what is happening in education, which we have learned through COVID, I must say, is that we are making people mug things with everything available online, and even 8 to 10-year-old kids able to collect information online to make them mug, remember things. That whole education system needs total change. They have to be taught to how to be creative, how to be inquisitive. That was, at least in our time, it was missing. Luckily, I had a very good principal. That's a separate issue. But that is, creativity has to be taught at school level, young level. Wherever there is creativity, I've seen that even 8-year-olds are able to do good programming. So, Varun, you are doing good job, but this part, education part, is something we have to think how to make many people realize that education system has to change drastically, totally, and all over the world, not only in India. Everywhere things are bad.
Kawatra Sahib, you said exactly
That's
this is the whole idea of the Manavodaya movement now. We are hoping to engage faculty members from different universities so that they become mentors to the students and join a network of these small short courses. So you see here a faculty from Ambedkar University, faculty from IGNU, Indira Gandhi National Open University. Even in this group, there are faculty members from different universities. What we are hoping is that they can connect to us through these short courses as mentors and enable students to work to actually start working on these issues, which is not just about taking a lecture. It's all about doing things. It's about action and reflection. We hope that through this medium of connecting, we are able to connect to teachers who in turn will be able to connect to students and take forward this agenda. Venkatesh ji, you are here. Venkatesh ji, what do you see the possibility of such a networking of faculty members of different universities to start connecting to students and with a uniform goal of creating some initial steps in self-awareness? Venkatesh ji is from the Ambedkar University.
Thank you, Varunji. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are.
This is indeed a great, exercise which is being done by the network of Manavodaya. I feel that in our current education system, come where the crisis or exhaustion. I call it exhaustion of all the knowledge models. We have come to a point where awareness is not changing into behavioral changes. A lot of books are there, a lot of toolkits are there. I've been experimenting on different models myself. And even after getting high dose of knowledge, awareness, it is not translating into our own changes in daily routines or behavior or even outlook towards other person. So I have come to a point where I feel that our education system should give more emphasis on modesty, self-learning, and like even a teacher who is delivering the course, he has to be not a rocket scientist or kind of an ivory tower. I mean, he could be a very modest person, and we must invest into our own students, not our own self. Like I have seen teachers who are doing their self promotions only. They are interested in their own growth, but the students suffer a lot. So spiritual, I feel that the spiritual orientation, the like I tell my students that sometimes you have to go backward. It's not like going always ahead and ahead, progressing well. Sometimes you have to fail. Sometimes you have to go a little backward to understand the realities of life. And I always teach from experiences or evidences. I've gone to a point where merely bookish knowledge is not sufficient. You have to relate to the individual trajectory or the what you have called before the self-awareness paradigm, the self-awareness sort of protocol, where students are motivated to go beyond the deliverables. Like we are expected to deliver certain things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but not that. Something which is not like logical positivism, something which is more grounded, something which is more experiential, something which is more spiritual, something which is more eternal. So in my class, I try to look for case studies, models, or even I take students to fields and give them more time to relax, to contemplate, to relate to the outer world. So I feel that we must go backward now. We have enough of things. We have enough of things to keep ourselves happy. But now, just like muddy water, when you put so many things in water in a pond, the pond becomes muddy. Let the water settle. Let the water cool down. Automatically, everything becomes so transparent. So we have to meditate, we have to relax, we have to go backward. We have to ask students to, develop their own pathways, learning pathways, come back to you. So I think it is a very good exercise. We must go to classrooms, we must go to teachers and tell them that in this journey of education or journey of awareness, what is most important is your own spiritual evolution, your own progress as an individual who is empathetic towards the outer world, who is modest, who is not capitalist, who is not running after goods, who is not running after money, right? So in this corona crisis, today we appreciate those who are kind-hearted, not who are very smart and who are very rich people. Frankly speaking, I have many neighbors who are very rich, CEOs and doctors, engineers, but those who are really helping people with food packets, who are giving medicines, they are superheroes. They are lifting our spirits. So we have to cultivate this kind of curriculum, this kind of, knowledge. I think I'm making my point clear. Sorry about my
Absolutely, absolutely. It is simply wonderful. Your words are music. It is fantastic. It is in tune with what we have been talking about. And let us work together to create greater self-awareness. We'll be sharing this continuously over time. Second Saturday is an event where we do that every month. But then we are trying to, share this broadly through these short courses, which the steps in, through which the youth can start understanding and feeling that yes, they can contribute to society. It was wonderful, your contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay,
we have some students also on this panel. Can we last word from some young student? Subir. Any student wanting to come in?
Hello, sir.
Okay, Sulekha, yes.
Yeah. I have listened for so many guests, and I really like the conversation that we all are talking about the same cause, SDG causes, sir have put the issues that like gender sensitization, self-awareness, education, moral education, all these things we all are working already. I have done so many volunteering programs, and I like that I have seen the process and agenda of your courses, and I like the way you put it in a way, and it's really beautifully arranged in a way like anyone can start or lead that program in their own way in their area. So I would like in this pandemic time, obviously we are not on field or we are staying at our home, and we are helping each other, like we are connecting on social media. So I can see when I try to find the humanity, so I am feeling that there are so many people who are still having humanity with them, and they are coming in front to help each other, like for medication and for any help like food drives and so many things. They are helping each other. So I feel that yes, in this pandemic also, humanity is also is still, and we need to find a way within ourselves. We need to start. We need we need to take initiative to make changes and to see impact. That's all I want to say, and yeah, I will like to work in further means whatever there the next program and planning, I will be there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Sulekha. We are already running out of time. Alastar, would you like to wrap up the session?
Yeah, it was just, that's fine. So thank you very much, everybody. What I was just looking to do was just, given the focused on youth and accessibility of this information, was just to briefly share that we have got this introductory website called People-Based Development, introducing the idea of Manavodaya to the masses across the world to try and make it quick, easy, accessible. We hope this will be a bit more welcoming for the youth, that people will go and look at it. I've put links to it in the chat. If the more people that can go and visit it, that would be great. Make suggestions. If we could have any blogs or any stories from any young people, any things that people are willing to share, that would be brilliant. It's just quite basic. A bit about what Manavodaya is about, how we go about things, just a few simple things, links to the Changemaker program, and a small gallery with some videos. The videos have got some of Varun's chats about the first 4 of the 8 steps, Ilrida and Doreen's first developing connections. And so there's not a lot there at the moment. The most important area that I think we could develop is this forum. I really want to try and encourage people to join the forum so we can have discussions throughout the month. In between times, we can share, we can collaborate. There's a general discussion section, there's a development from within section, and then there's a change maker section. So if people could have a go at just joining up, encouraging people to do that, and then that would hopefully just maybe, reach out to another group and encourage more action. Okay, thanks everybody for joining us. What I'm going to do is this has been recorded, so I'll upload this to the video section on that website, and it will be available probably at some point next week. I know Varun's very busy doing a Kenya program next week as well, so it's all go. Thanks everybody for joining, and hopefully you can join us again next time.
Wonderful, wonderful. It was a wonderful experience today. Lovely. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Varun.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.